Hello, my name is Jocelyn. Today I will share with you all Boulevard des Capucines, Paris. Boulevard des Capucines, Paris was painted by Claude Monet from late 1873 to early 1874. Now, who exactly is Claude Monet? Monet was an academically trained French painter raised in Le Havre, Normandy, and lived from 1840 to 1926. His notable works include Impression Sunrise, Water Lilies, and Woman with a Parasol, and is the most famous Impressionist artist from the 19th century, often being credited for finding the Impressionist style. Form. Boulevard des Capucines, Paris is an oil painting that is painted on a 31.6 inches by 23.75 inches canvas. Monet creates a diagonal line in the middle of his painting by drawing from his photographer friend Felix Nadar's studio, allowing him to use one-point perspective, a method where drawings have a single vanishing point. This makes the elements in the painting appear smaller and smaller as they get farther away, allowing the viewer's eyes to recede deeper into the bustling city of Paris. This type of perspective was influenced by Japanism, a term used for artworks that incorporate elements from Japanese ukiyo-e with block prints, such as Ichiri in Suruga province. In ukiyo-e print, artists would use foreshortening, a type of perspective where the subject matter appears smaller into the background, creating the illusion that there is distance in the artwork. Monet would wash his canvases with light hues in order to make his colors more prominent. In Boulevard des Capucines, Paris, he washes the canvas with a faint yellow background which contrasts the cold tone colors such as blue and black, making the colors appear more vibrant. He also used color by applying more blue and fewer details in the background, creating a deeper sense of distance and depth. The colors he uses in this painting include cobalt blue, lead white, cadmium yellow, vermilion, and ivory black. Monet would add texture to his paintings by applying thick layers of oil paint, creating a sense of three-dimensional depth and vibrancy into his paintings. Now onto content. Boulevard des Capucines, Paris is based on one of the four Grand Boulevards of Paris, Boulevard des Capucines. The Grand Hotel is on the left side, and Monet paints the hotel in finer detail compared to the rest of the painting to contribute to the sense of depth in the artwork. Tall trees close together to form a road down the boulevard center, dividing the road into two. The trees in the front are distinguishable and have warm-toned leaves such as yellow and red. As the painting progresses, Monet switches to blue for the leaves in the backgrounds as blob of paint. There is a yellow and red advertisement sandwiched between lines of hansom cabs, a type of horse-drawn carriage that was a popular form of transportation in early modern France. There is snow in the foreground of the painting, indicating that Monet was painting a scene of a winter afternoon. In the white snow, there are different tones of white. This is because light reflects snow differently at different times of day and shows that Monet was painting the scene in real time. The streets are filled with pedestrians, which critic Louis Leroy described as black tongue lickings. Monet would paint dabs of black paint with red, blue, and white accents, lining them up with motion to paint the impression of how busy Paris was becoming. At the bottom right of the painting, there's a figure of a vendor carrying many pink balloons, and further down, there are two figures who seem to have bought some of the balloons. There are men wearing top hats leaning on the balcony of Place de l'Opéra. On the bottom left and right sides of the painting, Monet mixes black, blue, yellow, red, and white in quick brushstrokes to create the impression of hordes of people and redirect the viewer's eyes to the center of the painting. In this painting, Monet wanted to portray the impression of life in modern Paris by using short, broken brushstrokes. Monet wanted to express that a quick oil sketch is able to most accurately capture a landscape's appearance. These quick sketches were usually used as a form of practice for academic training and were never presented as a final piece. Monet wanted to raise these oil sketches to the same level as a completed painting, which at the time was a painting that typically depicted realism with smooth blending, leading his paintings to often be criticized to be unfinished. He also wanted to show that art is best portrayed by a naive perspective that is not filled with former prejudice, as it can best present a landscape's true beauty. Now, style. Monet uses the Impressionist style in Boulevard des Capucines, Paris. Impressionism is an art style that developed in France in the 19th century and is often considered the first modern art movement. Impressionist artists would spontaneously paint on the spot and outdoors with landscapes and everyday life as a subject to maintain the utmost impression of what they're seeing. The term Impressionism derives from Claude Monet's other famous painting that was named Impression Sunrise, when critic Leroy criticized the painting as not a completed painting, rather an impression of a painting. In Impressionist paintings, the artists start creating impressions of what the person, light, atmosphere, object, or landscape looks like to the painter, representing how they perceive the moment in front of them, which makes their art more personal. Boulevard des Capucines is the epitome of this style as it has a modern urban subject matter, uses bright pastel hues, and pays attention to the effects of light and atmosphere. Onto medium. Boulevard des Capucines, Paris is an oil-on-canvas painting, meaning Monet used oil paint to create this artwork. Oil paint is a slow-drying paint with particles of pigment that is suspended in a drying oil, making the colors appear very vibrant. This is ideal for Impressionist paintings as it helps depict the effects of light and vibrancy of color very well. Technique. Monet uses the impasto effect, a technique where paint is laid on in thick layers, and with a large amount of paint on his brush, Monet starts his painting in small broken brushstrokes. The artist first applies a faint yellow background and then uses oil paint to sketch his painting out, making sure to leave spaces called reserves in the background and foreground for later details. Then he does flickering broken brushwork, giving the impression of a city with people alive with dynamic movement. Monet would apply small dabs and blotches of paint to depict the shifting effect that light has on the surface of objects and the eye without fully drawing out the physical figures. For the white dabs of paint, Monet would use what is called the wet-on-wet technique, which is painting directly over wet paint, which blends and softens the painting. The creator's point of view. Claude Monet wanted to portray the idea that an oil sketch with fresh eyes is the best way to capture a landscape's true essence, because according to Monet, the first real look at the motif was most likely to be the truest and most unprejudiced one. American painter and friend of Monet's, Lila Cabot-Perry, recalled the painter saying, "When you go out to paint, try to forget what objects you have before you, a tree, a house, a field, or whatever. Merely think, here's a square of blue, here an oblong of pink, here a streak of yellow, and paint it just as it looks to you, the exact color and shape until it gives your own naive impression of the scene before you." Monet would try to submit his work to Salon de Paris, an annual art exhibition held by Académie des Beaux-Arts, but the jury did not accept his work, often criticizing it instead. The jury expected blended brushstrokes, dull colors, and religious, historical, or mythological scenes. This contrasts Impressionist paintings greatly, being the complete opposite where the style embraces short, choppy brushstrokes, bright colors, and everyday life scenes. Wanting to display his artwork and earn money for his family, in the latter half of 1873, Monet and other notable Impressionist artists, Renoir, Pissarro, and Degas, organized the Cooperative and Anonymous Association of Painters, Sculptors, and Engravers. Together, they are coined as the Impressionists and would exhibit with each other a total of 8 times between 1873 and 1886, where they would share their artworks displaying the Impressionist style and win acceptance and support from the general public. The first exhibit, Monet amongst 30 other artists, displayed 165 works, 9 of which were Monet's. The first Impressionist exhibition was held at Nadar's studio in Boulevard des Capucines due to the large and bright space, where he painted Boulevard des Capucines Paris to display, but he displayed the horizontal version at the exhibition instead. Boulevard des Capucines Paris was a modern painting of modern Paris where Monet depicted Boulevard des Capucines. Boulevard des Capucines is one of 4 grand boulevards of Paris, which was constructed when George Eugene, also known as Baron Haussmann, remodeled the city. Paris was being rebuilt from an old city with narrow streets into a city with wide boulevards that is lined with shops, cafes, and trees. The remodernization of the city and boulevards were overseen by Emperor Napoleon III, rebuilding French culture. This was because France had been defeated by the Germans in the Franco-Prussian War, also known as Franco-German War, in 1870 to 1871, and was built to create modern optimism amongst the people. Many other Impressionists such as Renoir and Pissarro also painted the boulevards and modernization of France. And finally, lasting legacy and interesting story. Boulevard des Capucines Paris is now displayed at Nelson Atkins Museum of Art in Kansas City, Missouri. What's interesting about this painting is that there is an aforementioned horizontal version that is displayed in the Pushkin Museum in Moscow, Russia, titled Carnival of Boulevard des Capucines. The horizontal painting greatly contrasts the vertical version as seen here. In the vertical version, there is a delicacy in the brushstrokes and hazy clarity in tonality. In contrast, the horizontal version uses thicker paint and strong contrast in the light and dark colors. Boulevard des Capucines Paris showed all the components of a classic Impressionism painting, and with the first Impressionist exhibition, he and many Impressionist artists were able to showcase the new modern painting style. Although they were first met with many harsh criticisms from art critics, the Impressionists' strong persistence allowed them to launch the Impressionist style into popularity with the general public, a leading player of modernism styles. Now, art like Boulevard des Capucines Paris has embraced modernity and created a sense of artistic freedom, empowering artists to take their works to new heights. Since then, people have begun to appreciate modern styles for the beauty and creativity and inspired artists to step outside of what they were taught, leading to styles such as Post-Impressionism, Cubism, and Fauvism. Thank you for listening to my presentation on Boulevard des Capucines Paris.